Now, deadlifting is an extremely important motion, so if you are hesitant to deadlift, I would really dig deep to understand the hip hinge. The hip hinge is the motion which encompasses the deadlift. Some of the cues. Now, cues are things that a coach might say to you to get you to do better form. Now, external cues are ones where we actually tell you to move the outside environment. One example is if I was to raise my hand, I can say I want myself to contract my shoulder or my delt and raise it above the head. Or I can just say, reach to the sky. Reaching to the sky is a little bit easier for people to comprehend when they're thinking about multiple things. And they've actually found that external cues are way more productive at getting better performance and better form than internal cues or ones where we tell you to contract a certain muscle or joint in your body. Let's go over some cues. The first cue I like is bar on the shins or bar on the body. And this makes it so you don't what we call float the bar. And when you float the bar, you have the bar way out from the body. A lot of times this will put an increased load on the back and it will make it so you'll end up having back pain when you deadlift, hence eventually scaring you away from deadlifting. Now, keeping the bar on the shins, although it seems very simple, it'll keep the bar in the center of the feet through the entire lift. Pull yourself down to the bar is the next one. Now, pulling yourself down to the bar, it really sets the spine into the proper position. We've said other things in the past, like flatten the back, pull the chest through. Those are also great cues as well. But you should end up into this position right here when you're pulling yourself down to the bar. Next is breaking the bar or show me the big logo on your t-shirt. Now for this one, imagine you're wearing a shirt with a logo on the front, like right up around the neck collar. And I want to be able to see, if I was the coach and I was right in front of you, I want to be able to see that logo at all times. And the other cue of breaking the bar, it's actually physically breaking the bar in half, acting like you're going to break a stick, like you're a pissed off Jose Canseco or a baseball player, you're going to break it over your thigh. Now, this sets the shoulders in a proper place and it also engages the lats. The lats are an important core muscle. When contracted, it'll decrease the probability of you flexing the forward or rounding the low back. Driving away from the ground is the next one, or driving the feet through the floor. Push the ground away. There's multiple ways to say this, and the reason why I've gone through a couple cues different ways is because people respond differently to different cues. We got to figure out which one works best for each person. Now, pressing the ground away forces you to not think about lifting the bar, but more so driving the feet through the ground and standing up tall. This will put you into the proper bar path and it'll make it so it's way less complicated when you actually lift the bar. Now the high hips one is actually, it's a high butt position. The reason why we say this is because if the hips are too low, it makes it so your hips and knees are in line, which is technically a squatting pattern. And there's nothing wrong with a squatting pattern, but if we're looking to increase the capabilities of a hip hinging or deadlifting pattern, we need to make sure the hips are higher. Now, the height of the hips are very independent to each person based upon their flexibility. What I'm doing in this video is maybe not what you would do or what someone else would do. But either way, the hips should be above the knees and we should be having those hips high. Next is driving the hips to the bar. And this happens when you're almost about standing up or when the bar is above the knee position. And a lot of people think about leaning back to get the bar up towards the resting point. But realistically, this portion is really just driving the hips forward in front of you without leaning forward or backwards, and just a pure hip drive forward. And what we're looking for is driving your hips into the bar to meet the bar. Another cue is to pull the bar into your hips. And this is for those people that lose their lat control, or they lose the lat contraction when they're coming up, or they float the bar in front of their thighs. Now, this is very similar to the driving the hips through the bar cue, or to the bar, and sometimes to get them both working at the same time, I like to tell people to crush the toothpaste. And if there is a toothpaste container between your thighs, between your hips, and the bar, then you need to make sure that you're crushing every little last bit out of it that you possibly can. Next is look 3 feet out in front of you. The reason why we want people to look about 3 feet out in front of them while deadlifting is because to set the neck into a better position. what we like to do sometimes, if they can't grasp on looking at a bare ground in front of them, we like to put a shoe, a stick, a dot. It doesn't matter what it is as long as they're keeping attention to the ground. And you need to make sure that they are tucking the chin backwards, keeping the spine in a nice packed position, and making sure not to look up, because when the weight gets heavy, sometimes they do that stuff. The next cue is tensioning the bar or taking the slack out of the bar. This happens before we actually even lift the bar off the ground, and it's something that you have to feel and listen for. Some people feel it, advanced people can feel it. Beginners, they tend to rip the bar off the ground, which takes the bar from, or your body from an untensioned, unloaded position all of a sudden through that position with speed, and it hits, all of a sudden it hits the weight. Now that tension in the bar, that area which has no weight upon it, is there because we need to slide the weights on and off the bar. Pretty simple. But you need to make sure that you tension the weight onto the bar through your body before you actually lift the weight. Usually we like to listen for that click, and that's how we know we tension the bar if you can't feel it.